Hello, guys. My name is Desmond, and I welcome you to my lesson for today, where we will be looking at your mathematics. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, please do allow me to say it is very much important that I say it is very, very much important because what I'm about to say is massively. Hey, massively important, ladies and gentlemen, that I say a day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. By so saying, honorable members, please do make sure that by the end of each and every lesson that I conduct, you learn something new. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there. So let's see. This is what we're going to be looking at in today's lesson. So I'm well aware that I have taken you through an introduction to functions sometime early this year. So I am going to prepare, as soon as this lesson is done, I'm going to actually prepare my notes where I present to you introduction to functions, which is going to be something that we're going to be revising on over and over again, especially during that time of exams. But for now, I would like just for us to try and have a look at that question, just to remind you of what you need to remember as far as functions are concerned. So let's see. I've sent a question in the group, which is question number 6. What I'm going to do is to read through the given statement. We have a look at that sketch. And lastly, we look at the questions. I'm just hoping that we're going to quickly work out this question because I need to award myself enough time to work on my notes. I am very much happy to tell you guys that I'm actually done with notes related to electric circuits, introduction to electric circuits. So on Wednesdays, that's when we're going to be doing revisions, meaning there are going to be some more added lessons. I am going to update the timetable, and I think I'm going to share that maybe tomorrow or sometime during the week. Nothing is going to change in terms of your attendee schedule. I'm just going to indicate on which days we're going to be doing a revision. So it's more like we're going to be having some added activities. So let's see. The sketch below shows the graph of f. So that means this sketch, it shows the graph of f, having that equation being f of x is equals to negative x squared minus 6x plus 7. And they say c is the y-intercept of f. Where is c? Okay, there is c. So c, it is the y-intercept of f. Yes, it makes sense because this is the line for the Cartesian plane. This is the line for the Cartesian plane, namely the x-axis, the y-axis. We draw functions on the Cartesian plane, having the x-axis, the y-axis, and that point being called the origin. So this is the type of a function that you are having, meaning very, very much important that you know the types of functions that you'll be dealing with, mainly for straight line, parabola, hyperbola, exponential. So let's see. A and B are the x-intercepts of f. Okay, so now we know there we are having the x-intercept of f. What intercepts? The x-intercepts. Yes, most importantly, we already know something about that point. We do know very well that actually y it is 0. Also there y it is 0. We also know that x is a negative value, but we just don't know what that value is. Similarly, with that point B, we know x is positive, but we just don't know what value that is. We say it's positive because it's on the right side of that axis. This one on the left side of that axis. So let's see, honorable members. They're saying D. It's a point on F, and D has got the coordinates a -5 and K, meaning for point D, Y is represented by letter K, where you might need to expect a question based on letter K. Maybe let's quickly try to discuss all that we can remember as far as a parabola is concerned. Remember, honorable members, that type of a function, it started as just y is equals to x squared. This is the beginning of that type of a function. It then developed to become something looking similar to that. Let's see, I think y, they added a there, and then it had that. And then from there, it grew up to look something similar to that. We still have that a squared, but now we are having plus a c. Whether you say c, q, p, it doesn't really matter that much. What matters the most is that from having that, we just add c. The reason why we use c is because it's easy to refer to that as a constant. A constant meaning is just a number not attached to a letter. I'm telling you guys, from there, it grew up to become this common type of an equation being y it's equals to ax squared plus bx plus c. This is what I'm going to explain in detail when I'm going to be doing that introduction. So let's see. Maybe let me, okay, but it's fine. So this one, honorable members, that's where you are just having on a Cartesian plane a parabola which could be of that shape or of that shape. So we needed to be specific in terms of that shape, either being that shape or that shape. That's where the A comes in. To say, okay, if that A is positive, then we have a smiling shape, which looks like that. But now, if A is negative, that means the mood is negative. We therefore have a sad shape. Can you guys see? That means the A value tells us more about the shape being that of a smiling shape or a sad shape. From here, we go to that. What is the impact of C? C, it tells us more about the vertical shift. If you remember, we are having that, we are also having that, which is determined by the A value. But this can be shifted downwards, meaning it is therefore going to do something similar to that. So the C value is actually that point there, which tells us by how much did that shift down or by how much did that shift up. So that means if we are having y, it's equals to, let's say, negative 2x squared. Already, because of that a being negative, we know we are having that type of a shape, which is a sad shape. If our c value is plus, which could be plus 4, it tells us that this is that set shape, but that set shape, it is shifted by 1, 2, 3, 4 units upwards. So that means it is therefore going to do something similar to that. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, on that one. So lastly, you can see from there, it moves on to that one. And the only difference there, it is that. And this part, it tells us more about the sideways shift. It tells us by how much it has shifted now to the right, making a U-turn inside the quadrant, or by how much it has shifted to the right, or by how much with a set shape it has shifted in whatever direction. So that means this portion, the BX, tells us more about the left and right. And then this one, it tells us more about the up and down. And then that one, it tells us more about the shape being that of a smiling or that of a sad shape. So this is just a quick background on a parabola, which is a lesson which some of you might have missed, probably because you discovered my lessons afterwards. But I am still going to make or prepare a very quick summary explaining all of that. Otherwise, if you wish to watch that lesson, you can still catch up on my YouTube channel or in the recorded lessons. So before I go deeper, Libandla la kaNkulunkulu, did that make sense, honorable members? Or is there someone who's got a question before I continue? Silence in court. Guys, did you get that? Silence again. Let me see who is on the line. I see Onta is there, Amanda is there, Moleboge is there, Mzozo is there, Jackie is there, Landiswa is there, Pusisiwe is there. Leslie just joined. Honorable members, I'm just not sure if you'd like to ask any questions before I continue.
No questions.
No question from Moleboge. Moleboge, I'm well aware that this information is not new to you. I see Amanda is there. Busisiwe Ngolo, are you sure you don't want me to re-explain something, honorable member?
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, 100%. Maybe let me add on to what I've explained. I am well aware that most of you guys are familiar with this information. It was explained previously, but for the sake of those who missed this information, in addition to what I've explained, let me quickly take you through a straight line, the history of a straight line. Remember, guys, a parabola and a straight line, in most cases, they are in the same WhatsApp group. This is where straight line came from. It was just y is equals to x, honorable members. It was just y is equals to x. It developed from that to becoming this. Y is equals to mx. Just notice the difference as it grows. And then now at an adult stage, it grew to become y is equals to mx plus c. Notice the difference from there to there and there. So let's see. What is the difference from there to there? You will realize that actually there we are now having m. So that means on this thing called a Cartesian plane having the y and the x-axis, obviously that point being the origin, where we say y is equals to x, think of y being 1. If y is 1, that means x is 1. So if you put a point where y is 1, x is 1, you can maybe put a point there. If x is 2, y is 2. There, if y is 2, there x is 2. Can you see a shape of a straight line? If that is that, that is that. That is that, that is that. Obviously, if y is 0, that means x is 0, which is that point. So when you connect the dots, can you see? It gives you a straight line which can continue up to infinity. Still in this direction, when you say x is -1, y also has to be -1, which could be that point there. And then you can continue up to infinity. Those arrows just indicate to say it continues up to infinity. But now here comes a question. What is the impact of that m, well known as the gradient, which has a formula which says m it's equals to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What impact does that m have on a straight line? Remember, guys, it's not at all ways where you're going to have a straight line where when y is whatever value, it is the same as that. You might find a straight line in that direction. So can you see when you compare the gradient of that line and that line is different? The gradient, the word gradient, if it doesn't ring a bell, think of a slope. There is a mountain having that type of a slope. There is a mountain having that type of a slope. So you can see it is steeper to climb that mountain. It is a bit more gentle to climb that mountain. So that is influenced by the gradient. How steep or how gentle is the line? So you can see this line is much more steeper compared to that one. This one much more steeper. Much more steeper compared to those two. This one a bit gentle compared to all of those. Most importantly, honorable members, the gradient can either be positive or negative. How do you know the gradient is positive or negative? That's if you've got a straight line which ends in the first and third quadrant. Those lines will always have positive m. I'm sure you remember this on the lesson that we did on analytical geometry, which means all the lines ending in the second and fourth quadrants at all the times, they will have negative gradients. Just always remember that. So I have very quickly explained the impact of m on a straight line. So can you guys see all these lines, they pass through the origin. What if they are not passing through the origin? What is the value at the origin? Remember, at the origin, that's where you're having 0. So all these lines, honorable members, they can shift vertically upwards or downwards. That is where that C comes in. It tells us more about the vertical shift. Remember, vertical means up or down. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, on that one. Amanda, I'm telling you, honorable member, at all the times when you see the C being positive, it means it has shifted upwards. When you see your C of a straight line being negative, just know it has shifted downwards. For example, it could be, maybe let me create myself a space there and say you've got an equation being y is equals to, let's say, positive 2x, let's say, plus 3. When you look at this, firstly, you notice a positive gradient, which means on a Cartesian plane, it's a line that ends in the first and third quadrant. Because of this constant being positive, it means that line, it has actually shifted upwards by 3 units. So that means it's going to pass at 1, 2, 3, having a positive gradient. So that means we're talking about that type of a line passing through 3 and having a positive gradient, which is equals to positive 2. Again, it may be negative 3, which means it has shifted by 3 units downwards, still having a positive gradient ending in the first and third quadrant, but most importantly, passing through negative 3. The moment we start saying negative 2 there, that means it's negative 2, the gradient ending in the second and fourth quadrant, most importantly, shifted by 3 units downwards, which means it is going to look like that. If maybe it's negative 3, there is positive 3. It could be that now the gradient, it is no longer the same as that one because that value has changed. You might find that it's a bit steeper now, but most importantly, passing through positive 3. So that is all that you need to be aware of regarding a straight line. I'm just not sure if I'm losing you, Honorable, but wait, let me just check. Moleboge, are you sure I'm not losing you on that one, Honorable Member? I feel like I'm losing someone. Check the jackies. Am I not losing you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Am I not losing you there?
I can't. The problem is I can't hear you properly. I'm load shedding and my network is not.
Oh, okay. Makes sense, Honorable Member. But just remain in the class. This lesson is being recorded. As soon as it's done, it's going to be posted. You are going to catch up. Then, as you catch up, in case if there's somewhere you do not understand, you will then let me know and I will re-explain. But for now, I will just continue, just like we always do. Honorable. But wait, I see Onta is there. Onta, are you sure, Honorable Member? You don't want me to explain something there. I feel like I'm losing you, Honorable Member.
No, sir, I understand.
Makes sense, nay?
Yes.
Okay. So I am just going to remove all of these. Maybe let's try to have a look at the questions. And let's pray that as I do these questions, I make as many mistakes as possible. Reason to that is so that we can learn from the mistakes that I'm going to make, which could possibly be the common mistakes that you guys might be doing in exam. Most importantly, honorable members, I'm telling you, every time when you write exams, do not worry about something that you haven't studied. If you know you did not study, for example, financial maths, do not concentrate on questions related to financial maths. Firstly, do what you are confident with. Do those, attend to those only when you are done and when you have checked that you answered everything correctly or to the level of your ability. Only once that is done, you can have a look at the questions that you are not prepared for. You do not want a situation where you waste much of your time on things that you did not prepare. Because what I've noticed over the time is that you do fail tests not because you did not know, but because of the approach that you had when writing your tests or exams. I am well aware that when one fails, it doesn't necessarily mean that you did not study or you did not prepare. There are those silly mistakes that you do in exam. The only problem, Leslie's, it's when you do not allow yourself to make those mistakes during these times of practice. So just make sure that you practice enough, you catch up, you make mistakes. And when you make those mistakes, make me aware of those mistakes. If, for example, you solve that type of a problem, work it out. If you're not confident, firstly check the memo. If the memo doesn't make sense, then you drop an inbox with a photo of what you have done. You say, this is the question, this is what I've done, this is the memo. I'm not confident, I don't understand the memo. Then I'm telling you, Sisanda, if you have done that through your thinking, I'm able to detect what went wrong or what you were thinking when you were attempting that problem. It makes it very, very much easier for me to know what's in your mind. Then I'm going to be able to easily guide you accordingly. So let's see, 6.1, it says calculate the coordinates of E, the turning point of F. Good people, in every question, there is a cream. What is the cream of this question? The cream of the question, it is that weight or those weights. When removed from the question, the whole question will remain senseless. Very, very much difficult, Moleboge, for learners to identify the cream of the question. So in this case, they're saying calculate the coordinates of E. I'm telling you, honorable members, if you remove the word coordinates from that question, it might not be clear. To some, it might be clear because of you having experience. So that means this is the cream of the question, the coordinates. You ask yourself a question to say, the coordinates of what? They're saying the coordinates of E. So that means the coordinates of E is what they are looking for. The question now is, how do we represent the coordinates? How do we write the coordinates? You know coordinates are written in this format. If that is the case, that means you actually need to calculate the X value and the Y value and finally present them as your final answer in that format. That's how you answer this question. Or that's how you approach a question if you want to know exactly what examiner is looking for. So, Asanda, at all the times, honorable member, it's not only about you doing some calculations, it's about you approaching the question correctly. Understand what they want. Do they want you to calculate? Do they want you to write? Do they want you to describe? Do they want you to, whatever the case may be, ask yourself, what exactly do you want, honorable examiner? Do you want me to sing? Do you want me to cry? Do you want me to run away? If you want me to run away, then you run. Don't walk. So now they've given you a hint to say E, the turning point of that function. So this is why you remember that when it comes to the turning point, there is a formula to calculate the X value at the turning point. And that formula, if you remember, what is that formula? I think it's X, which is equals to, is it negative B over 2A? Am I correct in saying this?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay, so now that means as soon as you get the X value, you are therefore going to substitute it to the main formula or the equation for that function. So that is why they are therefore going to say you take that X value and you substitute it to that. So that is why, honorable members, they are going to say this is the general formula for calculating the turning point. This is how you find the X value, by using that formula. And the Y value, you find it by taking that X value and substituting it into the function itself. And that is how you calculate the coordinates of the turning point. You might be seeing this in your textbook and not understand what it means. This is exactly what it means, what I'm explaining. I'm not sure if it makes sense to everyone, honorable members. Leslie, the Leslies. Does it make sense, honorable member? Are you sure I'm not losing you on that one? I don't know why I'm having this feeling that I'm losing you. The Lwandiswa Mlondo. Uthulile lapho namhlanje, honorable member. Kwenze njani? Bosisi wenqolo.
And sir,
Konke
everything's all right.
konke kuhamba kahle. Okay. I see Mzozozo. Dala sikhulumile mina nawe. Kwenze njani lapho? Ungabe konke kuhamba kahle?
Uhamba kahle, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. Now, let's maybe try to calculate the coordinates of E. You guys work it out very quickly from your side and give me the answers. Remember, I am not that much interested in giving you guys the answers, but I'm more interested in explaining to you what gaan aan hier so. So, what are you guys getting there? Let's see. What are you guys getting at that side? Maybe let me do it this way and say there we are having f of x, which is equals to negative x squared minus 6x plus 7. So that means your a value is actually negative invisible 1. Remember, there is an invisible 1 there. And then your b value is equals to negative 6. And your C value is equals to positive 7. The mistake that you make is to forget the negative. So most importantly, you find your X by substituting those values there. What X value are you guys getting for E? Anyone who got an answer?
-3.
Someone is saying -3. Who's saying -3, honorable members?
This one.
Okay. And what about the Y value? What are you getting there?
Getting 16.
Let's see. -3, she's getting 16. Hey, I don't trust these answers. Is the honorable member telling the truth there? Libandla lakaNkulunkulu.
She's correct.
Sisanda?
Yes.
She's
Okay.
right.
Okay. 100%. So let's see. That means without any waste of time, automatically we know some things there. So let's say maybe E, it is -3 and 16. Do you guys agree that at point C, X is 0 there? But what is the Y value at C? Whatever that you say, explain why are you saying it is that whatever.
Hi, sir.
Yes, go for it, Lwandiswa.
I think C is 7, 0 and 7.
Because
C is 7 is a constant, and C is I don't know, sir. Never mind.
Okay, so the reason is because it has shifted upwards by 7 units. Remember, C tells us more about the vertical shift. Name. So that is the reason. You say C, it is 7 because it has shifted upwards by 7 units. This -6, it tells us more about the sideways shift. And then that negative, it tells us more about the shape. Can you see? It's a sad shape. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, on that one. So very quickly, let's move on to the next question. I am telling you, that's how you score yourself 3 marks for that question. So let's see. 6.2. 6.2, they're saying write down the value of K. Write down the value of K.
Sorry, sir.
Yebo. Yes, honorable member. You were saying.
So,
Mtakangubane ndikumamele Ntombo. Ndingulalele uthini lapho. Okay, maybe let me continue in the meantime. I will get back on that one. So write down the value of K, honorable members. The cream of the question, they are not saying calculate, but they're saying write down. So that means they just want you to say K is equals to. You can still calculate, but you're only going to get a mark for you to write the value of K. Anyone who's got an idea of how we can find the value of K? 1 mark. Anyone, honorable members?
So K is equal to 12.
K is equals to
12.
12. Waze kanjani? Wenzeni?
I just substituted the -5 there, the coordinate of D, into the original.
Yes. Because actually K, that's where you know that its corresponding X value, it is that. Yes, you are 100% correct, honorable member. So at all the times when you see the coordinates, just know that this is X and this is the corresponding Y value. Don't just call it Y, but call it the corresponding Y value. So that means this is the X and this is the corresponding value of that X. So in this case, we are having X and this is the corresponding value, meaning to know what that is, you must know what that is. And then you substitute it there, and then the honorable member is saying 12. Is this correct, members of the opposition parties? Is that correct? Yebo noma cha?
That's correct.
Okay. Remember, guys, it's not only about answering of the questions, but it's about how you approach the questions. And trust me, this was I think, not sure if it's 2022. Yes, I think it's 2022 a June exam question paper. You can see how doable it is. It is doable only if you know or understand the basics. As I always say, honorable members, if you're in grade 11 or grade 12 and you're still struggling with either the functions or whatever, it could be any different chapter. Your problems are not in grade 11. Trust me, your problems are not in grade 12. Everything started in grade 10. That is why I have honorable members who are in grade 12 and still attending my grade 10 lessons. That's after they understood very well that their problems are not in grade 12. They are not in grade 11, but everything started there. Remember, guys, when you got to grade 12, you were not that much serious about education and you neglected the basics. And now, in grade 11 and 12, they are not teaching you the basics, but how to apply those basics. The reason why it is that much difficult is because you are applying what you did not understand. Very, very much important that you just attend any maths lesson for the sake of understanding, remember guys, I'm not training you for the purpose of passing. I am more interested in building your knowledge and understanding, because that's what you're going to need when you get to grade 12, and most importantly, adversity. How do you approach problems? How do you think? How do you apply your knowledge? Just make sure that you don't study to pass, honorable members. Study to understand and do not rush. As I always say, I knew I was a slow learner during my time. So I had to move at my own pace and not at the pace set by the Department of Education. Because the main aim of an educator is to make sure that they complete what they are supposed to complete. Make sure that they tackle whatever chapter within 2 to 3 weeks or whatever. But what if your understanding is lower than the pace setter? That's where you need to make peace with yourself and say, I'm not aiming for high marks, but I'm aiming at mastering each chapter, so that when I move on to the next chapter, I know I've understood everything. So just be aware of that, honorable member. When you're in grade 10 and 11, do not be obsessed about getting the highest marks. Worry when you get the highest marks, but not being confident with the knowledge. You need to get to a stage where you are able to solve any question paper. If you see yourself being in grade 12, but fail to answer some questions in grade 11 or 10, just know you are not yet confident. It doesn't mean if you're in grade 12, you only focus on grade 12 stuff. In maths, there's a connection, honorable members. So just make sure that you do not take for granted the lower grades. Okay, so now determine the equation of the straight line passing through C and D. What is the cream of the question, Moleboge? They're talking about equation of a straight line that you need to determine. What do we know about the straight line? We know this is how we represent a straight line equation. So whatever that you do, in the end, tell us your answer in that format. Most importantly, you do know very well that when we're dealing with a straight line, we're simply looking for the actual value of the gradient, for the actual value of C. If we can know those two, we are done with an equation of a straight line. Most importantly, for you to determine an equation of a straight line, you really need two things. Listen very carefully. I am saying two things. What are those? It could be 2 points. It could be 1 point, or not all, but 1 point and the gradient. So in this case, what is it that we are having? It's either you have that or you have that to determine an equation of a straight line. Trust me on that one. So what is it that we are having? They are saying passing through point D and C. So can you see? We are having 2 points. That means in this case, this is so. What do we do with the 2 points? We can firstly calculate M and say M we know is changing Y over changing X, grade 10. I won't go deep on that. So let's see between C and D. Let's see A, B, C, D. Okay, C comes first, that second. So that means these are going to be my X2, Y2, X1, Y1. So let's see, what is X? Y2. Did we calculate? Yes, we did. Honorable member said the value of K is equals to 12. So that means there we are having 12, which means there we are having 12 minusing 7 divided by, there we are having -5 minusing 0. What is that on? I think that is it 5? Yes, I think it's 5 divided by What is that? I think it's -5, all of that. So it seems like this is -1, honorable member, as the gradient. It makes sense for it to be a negative. Why? Because if you connect those two, you realize you end up having a straight line that will end in the second quadrant and the fourth quadrant. Therefore, it has to have a negative gradient. And most importantly, honorable members, because it is passing through that point C that we already know its value, then we might not need to worry about calculating the C value. What I'm saying is we have y is equals to the gradient is negative invisible 1x plus C. C, remember, it doesn't mean it is C because there is written D. It could be T there. We are just saying our straight line has been shifted by this so many units upwards. So otherwise, one would say, I will rather calculate it and say at point C having 0 and 7. Then that means y it is 7, it's equals to negative x is 0 plus C. Then you realize that times that it's 0. So actually, C is equals to 7. Therefore, equation of your straight line, it ends up being that. Can you see? You have represented it in that format, which means you have answered the question. I'm just not sure, honorable member. I think I was moving too fast on that one, but I'm pretty much sure that most of you guys were listening very attentively in terms of what is it that we can say about a straight line. Mlondo, are you happy, honorable member, with what was explained there? Are you satisfied with that answer there? Does it make sense why it is negative there, why it is a plus there, and why it is in that format?
It does make sense.
But does it make sense to everyone? Or is it only making sense to me and Lwandiso?
It does make sense.
It makes
Okay.
sense. We understand.
100%. So let's see. 6.4. 6.4. 6.4. What am I going to do now? I think I might need to remove all of these. And then we look at 6.4. What are they saying there at 6.4? A tangent parallel to CD. Remember, CD was calculated to be y, which is equals to negative x plus 7. Now they're talking about a tangent parallel to CD touches F at P. Remember, when a line is parallel to another line, that means there it is the line. But because it's a tangent, it means it cuts that at only one point. And that point could only be somewhere there. Because if you move further down, it will always cut this 2 times or at 2 points. So that is why the only way is to move it upwards. Because there upward, somewhere up there, that's where it's going to touch this at just that one point and still being parallel to that line, even though I did not draw it nicely there. But I hope you get my point when I say it's a line parallel to that, but it has to touch it once. Why? Because it's a tangent. So that means this is actually point P. So what do we know about parallel lines? Very, very much important that you refer to the previous information that you learned. You do know very well that for parallel lines, the gradient of line 1 is equal to the gradient of line 2. That is the first thing that I remember. So now that means the gradient of this line is exactly the same as the gradient of that line. So we are having, let's say, y is equals to also that one. It is therefore going to be negative x plus c. But don't get lost or get too excited in answering the question. what exactly examiner wants Moleboge? They want you to determine the coordinates of P. So that means in the end, or at the end of the day, you need to say P has got these coordinates. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, on that one. Yes, yes. Seems like this one is going to be a movie, honorable members. I'm just not sure if there's someone who would like to actually give it a try or explain how can we possibly approach this question. Anyone? Libandla la kaNkulunkulu? Hmm? Honorable members, remember guys, in case if you've got no idea, please with confidence just say no idea, and I'm going to be aware that you did get my question but you've got no idea, then I'm going to explain.
No idea, sir.
Yeah.
Kunzima. Okay. Okay. So let me check someone who's in grade 11. I want us to do an experiment. I'm well aware that on time is in grade 11. Letaw, usasekhona lapho singakhuluma.
Sir.
Okay. So everything that we have done up to this point, did you understand everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I just want to make you aware that when you get to grade 12, everything that you said you understood, honorable member, I'm also confident that you did understand. But this question, I took it from a grade 12 question paper, knowingly that a grade 10 and a grade 11 learner, they will still be able to understand all that is being explained there. So I want to expose you to what happens on your next grade. Everything remains as it is. It doesn't change. It's not like there are grade 12 functions and grade 11 or 10 Maths is the same, honorable member. Even when you get to varsity, honorable members, maths is the same. They just add a bit of spice. And then when you get to the workplace, it is still the same thing. They just add a bit of spice. So you just need to keep up. It's more like a game or a phone or whatever being updated. Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows whatever. It is still the same window. They just added something new. So here, this is what they are going to add, honorable member. They are going to say, it might not make sense to everyone, but if it doesn't, let me know and I'm going to re-explain. Moleboge, when you approach this type of a question, especially when they talk about a tangent, listen very carefully, especially when they talk about a tangent. When it comes to a tangent, you need to say, or ask yourself to say, what is the gradient at that tangent? That is where you use the derivative or you differentiate or whatever the case may be. And I'm well aware that, say, TK taught you all of that. To say, if you want to derive that or to determine the gradient of a parabola or the derivative. I'm not sure if you guys remember TK saying to find the gradient of that at any point you differentiate that. Yes, it is to differentiate. So that is where you say that is equals to. You remember, Mos, you take the exponent, you multiply that by the coefficient. So it's more like you're saying -1 multiplied by 2. What is that? Is it not negative 2x? And then that power, you minus it by 1. Then you end up having 2 minus 1. And then you do the same there. Obviously, there you have invisible 1. You take that 1, you multiply it by the coefficient. It is therefore -6. And then that power, you minus it by 1. So it's more like you're saying 1 minus 1. What is 1 minus 1? It's 0. So it's more like you're having x to the power of 0. What is anything to the power of 0? It's actually a 1. So it's more like here you are having 1. What is -6 times 1? It is -6. So that is why when you are having that type of a thing, it just ends up being that coefficient. And then with this one, it falls away when you differentiate it. So how does it fall away? It's like you're having +7 there. Then you're just going to assume to be having x to the power of 0, because x to the power of 0 is the same as 1. It doesn't change anything. So it's like you're saying 0 times 7. What is that? Already 0. Then 0 minus 1 is the same as what? As x to the exponent -1. So 0 multiplying that, it is the same as 0. That is why it completely falls away when you are having a constant when you differentiate. On tar, at this point in time, honorable member, I'm not expecting you to understand everything. In case if you are confused, do not worry that much. But I'm just saying, when you get to the next grade, that's all that they add when it comes to the functions, especially that one of a parabola. So if you can master everything, it's going to be very, very much easier for you to excel in grade 12, because they just add a few things. That is why at all the times, Amanda, I always say grade 10 and 11 are the most difficult grades, because that's when you are starting with maths and physics. That's when you're still trying to understand what exactly is physics, what exactly is maths. But once you fully understand and master everything, I'm telling you, in grade 12, that's why you have learners in different schools getting 100%. It's because there is nothing new or more of the things that you'll be doing, you already know. They just add a few. And if you can master everything in the lower grades, when they add and you master those, it is possible for you to get 100%. So that is why I'm saying do not be obsessed by getting the highest marks or being number 1 in class. It won't help you. It helps those who fail and realize that, okay, I failed, I need to do something. That is the first positive step. Once you fail, ask yourself, what am I going to do next? And what is it that I'm going to do differently? You will become a better learner going forward. So now, the grade 12s, is this thing new to you, or do you understand Vatchanan Hiso? Or did I lose you there?
It's not new.
It's not new. I would agree with you on that one. But guess what, Moleboge? As much as it's not new, you might discover something new. It's in most cases where a teacher would say, I have taught you these things, and that's after you failed. And they say, this thing is not new. We have done it before, but you failed. And it feels like it's surprising in terms of how did you guys fail? It is because of having a limited understanding, when you do something, honorable member, make sure to take question papers from maybe 2013. Do all of them and focus only on one type of a question or on one chapter. Do everything. Make sure you understand the memo. If you don't, that's when you consult. So, Moleboge, here comes the question. What is the gradient at that point? Can you guess? Do you know? Can you think of something? Anyone, honorable members? What is the gradient at that point? At that point of the tangent, what is the gradient?
Is
Negative
it
one.
-2?
-1.
What?
Yes, I thought you wouldn't know that. You are 100% correct. What makes it to be -1 is because this line is parallel to that line. So that means this, it's actually the gradient. What you have done there, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you derive, it is the general gradient. The moment you derive, it is the general. So that means you are having -1, which is equal to -2x minus 6. If you solve for x, it is actually the x value at that point P. So that means if you take this to the other side, it becomes what is it? 6, that you minus it with 1. What is it going to be? I think it's 5. So it's more like you're having 5 that. And then you divide by -2 on both sides. That cancels that. So x is actually equals to that. So now can you see, you know what is the x value at that point? -5/2. So this x value, you take it and substitute it on the original equation, not on this one, because this one is for the general gradient. So it's more like if you know what the x value is there, if you know what the x value is, you can take that x value, substitute it there to know the y value. But I'm just trying to say, this is the general equation of the gradient of that. It is the general gradient. So it's more like it's the formula to calculate the gradient at any point along that. If you know that this point, its gradient is whatever, you can therefore calculate its x value. I notice I'm left with 10%. No, not over x there, but I hope you noticed it's actually 2. Oh, another thing, honorable members, -5/2 is the same as -5, the whole of that. It is still the same as 5/2. Never get confused by that interpretation. One and the same thing. So now when you take this and substitute it there to get the y value, what are you guys getting there? Just want to make sure that within these 10 minutes, I don't know, 10% power. What are you guys getting there?
63/4.
60. Is this correct? 63/4. Is that correct? Lebandla la kaNkulunkulu?
Correct.
So in the end, you are therefore going to say P, it is -5/2 and 63/4. Moleboge, does it make sense to say it might not be new, but you need to understand something in order to apply that which you say is not new? I'm not sure if you get me on this one, honorable member.
No, I get to be able to see it and to be able to apply what you were taught. That it's two different stories. So I get you. I
It's
understand you.
completely two different things. You are 100% correct on that one, honorable. So, you know those teachers, Moleboge, I won't describe them. They just say you do that, but they don't go deep to this extent. And after you failed, that's when you say, maybe they say it's not new, and you do agree it's not new, but it's not being discussed to say, even though it's not new, but we did not do that. Can you see? It happened many times at my school, Moleboge. I would be the only one getting 100% on everything. Why? Because I studied the exam question papers. I knew how questions are being asked. I knew that the moment examiner talks about a tangent, when it comes to a parabola, it has got something to do with you knowing the gradient at that point. Sometimes you might not be having parallel lines, but somehow there's going to be a hint, honorable member. That's how examiner tries to be tricky. There's going to be a hint somehow. So if this type of a question was asked maybe in 2015, it might repeat in a different form, maybe in 2025. You just need to be aware that that type of a question, it does exist. And if it comes, this is how you work it out. You don't only do this one and say, I've done enough, I'm aware, if it comes, I'm going to do it. Do it, or try to find a question paper that has that type of a question and check how differently can that be asked. You're going to do the same calculation, but the question is asked differently. So that's what I ended up realizing, to say, actually, we answer in the same manner, but questions are asked differently. When you learn, do not only learn on how to do things, but also learn how questions are being asked. I'm telling you, you will not go wrong if you master that one. So let's see. For which values of x will f of x minus 12 be greater than 0? You know, this type of questions, Moleboge, they've always been difficult for me to interpret during my time. During my time when I was in high school, very, very difficult. But for a question similar to this one, I would just take a guess to say, okay, because of that, it means it's an inequality. How do we then work out inequalities? Because they want the x values, maybe let me try to solve for x for that. This thing, trust me, it is equals to that. So why not substituting it there? And we still have that minus 12 there, which is greater than 0. How about solving for x? Whatever x that we get as our final answer, it is therefore an answer to this question, because they're saying for which values of x. That means they want you to comment on the x values. It might be difficult for you to give an answer by just looking at that. So maybe let's see when we work it out. So if you remember, guys, we're having negative that. Remember, it's an inequality. What is this? I think this is negative. Is it negative 5? I think it's negative 5 greater than 0.
Yes.
If you remember, we do not want to be having a negative a value when dealing with quadratic inequality. So that is why you're going to change the sign of every sign. There you start with that one is positive. This one you change it to positive. This one you change it to positive. This is a sign. That is why you change it to less than 0. 0, whether it's positive 0, it's negative 0, both of them are the same as 0. So I did change a sign there. It's just that it will just remain as 0. The mistake that you do is to change every sign and not change that one. That is a common mistake. So now it gets there. That's where you now factorize. Can you see? Easily you can factorize that. I think you're having 5 there, 5 there. But wait, did I not miss something there? No, I don't think I missed anything. I don't think so. Okay, so as we factorize that, what are we having, honorable member? I think we're having plus there. So that when you say da, and da, it ends up giving 6x, and then da, it ends up giving us that. If you remember, honorable members, I did say when you are having a less than sign there, it could be less than, or it could be less than or is equals to. That's why you're going to have that type of an answer which says x being between. So what are the critical values? Obviously, this is where x is equal. You take that to the other side, it is that. X is, take that to the other, then it is that. So this is where now you are therefore going to have x, which is between a -5 and a -0. Yes, I think this is exactly what you're going to be having. Trust me, honorable members, it might not be everyone understanding what I've done there. And what I've done is actually grade 10 stuff, because you're just having an equation, but instead of having an it's equals to there, instead of having it's equals to, they've put an inequality sign. You just need to know what you do when you have an inequality sign. You're just solving for x. You're just solving for a quadratic, in this case, not a quadratic equation, but a quadratic inequality because of the inequality sign. That's it, honorable members. Did you guys understand what I've done there? Or are you guys shocked at that side?
I understand on my side.
Last one to confirm.
Understood, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. So remember, guys, most of you guys, your parents are in the classroom. So this is the code for today's lesson, just so that we have proof that you did attend, which is how your parents are going to track you in case if you're attending or skipping the lesson. So when the lesson is done, comment with whatever that you have learned in today's lesson. And most importantly, just comment with ready, just to indicate that you are well aware that Wednesday we are going to have our revision. I think what we're going to do is introduction on electric circuits, because I want to make sure that you guys master that one, so that during exams, we don't focus on easy chapters, but we only deal with the difficult questions only. So just comment with whatever that you've learned in today's lesson. And lastly, comment with ready, just to confirm that you are ready for Wednesday. So make sure that you answer my question, honorable members. Don't just say ready. Don't just mention what you've learned, but answer as if you are answering for 2 marks, where you are answering for 2 things. Did you guys get the code for today's lesson, honorable members? Leslie, did you get that, honorable member?
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do thank you very much for joining. My name is Desmond, and I'm out. Don't miss maths lesson tomorrow, honorable members. Just make sure that you are in the extra